This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Jamie Glazov Moment. Tonight, Mattel's hijab-wearing enslaved Barbie. Ladies and gentlemen, Mattel, the American multinational toy manufacturing company, has now released a hijab-wearing Barbie doll as part of its Shiro program. It's modeled after Muslim American Olympic fencer Ibtihaj Muhammad. And guess what? Glamour magazine presented the doll recently at the Woman of the Year Summit in New York City. Now, Ibtihaj Muhammad herself has praised this Shiro program on social media. Let me quote her on social media. Quote, "The Barbie Shiro program recognizes women who break boundaries to inspire the next generation of girls. And I'm so excited to join this incredible group of women." She then wrote on Instagram, "I'm proud to know that little girls everywhere can now play with a Barbie who chooses to wear hijab. This is a childhood dream come true." Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where to start, but that quote in terms of chooses, I find very interesting. And I'm not sure if interesting is the right word. Let me just begin with this. Really? I understand that this is what's happening in terms of the unholy alliance in our society with the left and Islam, and how it's brainwashing our culture and everyone else in it. But, ladies and gentlemen, women and girls under Islam do not choose to wear the hijab. Now, don't get me wrong. There might be certain spheres and certain realms where it may be a choice. But this is because there is an independence and freedom from Sharia. Wherever Sharia is applied and there's force to back it up, then you get acid thrown in the face, you get honor killings, and I can go on and on. Look up hijab, mandatory, abuse, getting killed. Use your imagination and put the words into Google. Put in names like Robert Spencer, Pamela Geller. They've done tremendous work, crucial, significant work, vital work on documenting the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of women who are suffering and have suffered tremendous persecution and maiming and mutilation because they violated this command on the hijab. So let us remember and let us keep in mind that the mandatory requirement to wear the hijab is rooted in Islamic theology. Go to the Quran, Surah 24:31, Surah 33:59. This is why the hijab is mandatory and why there are such severe punishments wherever Sharia is imposed. This is mandatory for us to keep in mind if we're going to be humanitarian people and we're going to care for people's human rights. Now let's keep something else in mind. Hijab is a commitment to Sharia law. It is a complicity, in other words, with Sharia and all of its components, including jihad. So when you see hijab, you as a kufr, an unbeliever, you're basically being told that you are inferior, and you're also seeing an individual that is wearing a symbol that is expressing a commitment to Islamic supremacism, to Sharia, and to jihad. Now, I don't have the time in this particular video to explain all of this, but go to my video, What a Woman in Hijab is Really Saying to You. What a Woman in Hijab is Really Saying to You. Put in Glazov Gang and you can watch it. The producer of this show has also done a superb video on this, Annie Cyrus. Look up Annie Cyrus's Unknown Lies About Hijab 101. Very important video to watch. So we spell this all out in our videos. Let us remember, ladies and gentlemen, that if we're going to be humanitarian people, we can't let something like this go. Because, again, if you Google Robert Spencer, Google Pamela Geller, and Google information about the hijab and punishments about hijab, you will see that there is tremendous suffering and persecution of Muslim girls as well as non-Muslim girls, Muslim women as well as non-Muslim women, in many, many environments within Sharia and close to Sharia where females are barbarically punished with honor killings, acid attacks, etc., for not wearing the hijab because it's a mandatory requirement in Islam. I just want to tell one quick story to illustrate the seriousness of this and the horror of this in many ways. You know, I used to do a lot of work down on 3rd Street Promenade with the Counter Jihad Coalition, and we would be informing the public, people walking by on 3rd Street. We'd be handing out leaflets and pamphlets about Islam and the truth about Islam. And there were times where we were also by Louis Leinhardt, that was a preacher there that was telling the truth about Islam, and we would sometimes be engaged in dialogue. And many, many Muslims and also non-Muslims would be screaming at us and threatening us, etc. Part of these dynamics would be Muslim girls often from the Muslim world that we're visiting, and they would be screaming, shouting at me and at us. But in terms of my own personal experience, they would be calling me all these names about how I'm racist and how I'm ignorant and that I'm wrong about the hijab and that it's their right and it's their freedom, etc. And then when they would be leaving after screaming at me for an hour, or during this screaming, I would take a picture of them. You don't know how many times later a particular Muslim girl that was insulting me and telling me I'm ignorant and I'm racist and that it's her choice and I don't know what I'm talking about. You don't know how many times a Muslim girl has returned with tears in her eyes begging me, please, you took a picture of me earlier. Now, she's separated from her friends now. Please, you've taken a picture of me earlier. Can you please delete the picture? And she's terrified. And she's telling me that if I publish that picture and by any chance her family back in Saudi Arabia, Iran, wherever that she's visiting from, that she will be severely punished, maybe even killed. I have had conversations with several girls, Muslim girls, that are just crying, begging me to delete the picture because some of the hair might be showing with the hijab that they're wearing. They're wearing jeans, t-shirt, and they're terrified that their parents or their relatives will see a picture of them back home. But she just spent 2 hours screaming at me that I don't understand Islam and that Islam is a religion of peace and that hijab is not mandatory. This is for another time and place in terms of the full analysis of this. But my friends, in totalitarian cultures, victims often try to ingratiate themselves with their potential executioners. In terms of Stockholm Syndrome, how victims identify with their abusers and try to defend their abusers. The reason that those Muslim girls were begging me to delete that picture explains why, well, why don't we end with Aqsa Parvez? 16-year-old girl in Canada years back that represents so many Muslim girls. Tragically, because Aqsa Parvez was strangled to death by her father and her brother because she wanted to be free and didn't want to wear a hijab. Aqsa Parvez. This video I would like to dedicate to Aqsa and to her memory, because if we're going to be for human rights, Mattel, we don't normalize a system of oppression of women. I mean, you might as well go the whole way, Mattel. I mean, why are you just making a Barbie with a hijab? I mean, are you going to have little accessories where you can have like her family little dolls and have, them, have accessories where they can do an honor killing, or have little bottles of acid attacks where, the little girls can play that the Barbie takes off her hijab and now her family is going to throw acid at her and perform an honor killing, perpetrate an honor killing. I mean, where are we going with this? Let us stand for humanity. Let us not normalize the persecution and oppression of Muslim women and of women overall throughout the world. There has to be free choice. There has to be freedom and liberty. And the hijab is not that. It's a mandatory requirement in Islam. This video is dedicated to the memory of Aqsa Parvez. Let us not forget. See you on the next Jamie Glazov moment. Good night.